Pretty stunning response from Fox Corp CEO Lachlan Murdoch. In his first public comment since the Dominion revelations, Murdoch dismissed the allegations as noise. He said, quote, "I think a lot of the noise that you hear about this case is actually not about the law and not about journalism, it's really about the politics." Murdoch continued, "Unfortunately, that is more reflective of a polarized society that we live in today." He also included that the case will go to trial in April and portrayed Fox as having reported on the 2020 election, quote, "fulsomely and without fear or favor." Now, for those wondering if you're living in the Twilight Zone, no, you're not, but Lachlan Murdoch might be. So let's dig into what he said. He stated that the allegations aren't about the law or journalism, it's about the politics. And if he's talking about Fox's behavior and coverage, then he's right. This had absolutely nothing to do with journalism and everything to do with politics. Fox wanted Trump to win the election, and so, in stark contrast to any semblance of journalistic principles, those Fox hosts promoted Trump acolytes and the conspiracy theories they were spewing, despite knowing it was all bullshit because they wanted to help their candidate. So when Lachlan Murdoch says that it's not about journalism, it's about politics, he was absolutely right, just not in the way that he intended. Murdoch then goes on to say that the allegations are, quote, "more reflective of our polarized society that we live in today." Yeah, I wonder how it got that way. If only we could point to the advent of a partisan right-wing empire created solely to ensure that the criminality of another Republican president never again led to a resignation or dilution of conservative power. Tell you what, if anyone has any guesses, I'd love to hear them because I'm stumped. All of which is to say, if you are wondering why we live in a polarized society, Murdoch could quite literally point to himself and the company he runs. Again, there's no journalistic integrity there. It's a propaganda arm of the Republican Party. It is there to run cover for Republican politicians regardless of their criminality. Donald Trump incited an insurrection and they are still, to this day, going on air and pretending that it was some tourist visit.
But is January 6th the worst assault on the U.S. government since the Civil War? That's insane. It's not even close. How about March of 1954, when Puerto Rican separatists shot 5 congressmen in the Capitol building? 5 members of Congress shot in the building. It's all bad, but the worst since the Civil War? You're just a flat-out liar if you're saying that. More recently, this is an event we all remember, Antifa descended on Washington, D.C. to force the sitting president from office. But it was Trump, so that's cool. But the tape that we reviewed from within the building on that day proves it was neither an insurrection nor deadly. Here it is.
January 6th, when an estimated 2,000 rioters breached the Capitol building, causing the deaths of 5 police officers.
Certain dates echo throughout history. December 7th, 1941. September 11th, 2001. And January 6th.
The mob beat officers with anything they had on them, a hockey stick, a flagpole, a fire extinguisher. Police officers died.
Donald Trump supporters who, of course, rioted and killed police officers.
By the evening of January 6th, the Democratic Party and its publicists in the national news media had settled on a description of what had happened that day. They distilled an enormous number of highly complex events that even now we don't fully understand, into a single emotionally elated political slogan, which they've repeated for years with remarkable discipline. January 6th, they said, was a deadly insurrection.
There was a deadly insurrection that the right wing is trying to cover up.
He incited a deadly insurrection.
Incited a deadly insurrection.
The violent, deadly insurrection on the Capitol 9 months ago, it was about white supremacy, in my view.
A deadly insurrection. Everything about that phrase is a lie. Very little about January 6th was organized or violent. Surveillance video from inside the Capitol shows mostly peaceful chaos. But the slogan worked. The term deadly carries enormous emotional power, which is why they used it.
So if Fox has to create a parallel version of reality, that's clearly what they do. They will create another version of reality because the actual version is too damning for them. And in their version, Republicans never do anything wrong and Democrats are all coming to destroy everything you hold dear. Do the people feeding you that stuff know that it's straight disinformation? Absolutely. Do they care? Not in the slightest. And finally, Murdoch's quote that Fox reported on the 2020 election without fear or favor. The notion that Fox reported without favoring one side over the other is such aggressive bullshit that I cannot wrap my head around how he could say it with a straight face. Here's an example of how he's lying. When Fox reporter Jackie Heinrich did try to fact-check one of Trump's statements about the stolen 2020 election, she was attacked. Heinrich tweeted that there was no evidence of voter fraud from Dominion, and in response, newly revealed text messages show that Fox hosts and executives lobbied to get her fired. Tucker Carlson told Hannity, "Please get her fired. Seriously, what the fuck? I'm actually shocked. It needs to stop immediately, like tonight." Carlson said that he just went crazy on Executive Vice President Meade Cooper over it. Hannity said he'd already mentioned it to CEO Suzanne Scott. "I just dropped a bomb." Suzanne Scott then told Fox President Jay Wallace and Senior Vice President for Corporate Communications Irene Bagranti that Heinrich, quote, "has serious nerve doing this, and if this gets picked up, viewers are going to be further disgusted." So when Fox tries to use this defense that they were simply broadcasting the news without fear or favor, just know that that is not at all what they were doing. They were working not as a news network, but as political operatives under the pretense of a news network. They were showing only one specific narrative and outright punishing reporters for daring to show a different narrative, one that just so happened to be the reality. And let's be clear, Lachlan got close to acknowledging that Fox isn't a legitimate news outlet without saying as much. He said that Fox News is not just a news channel, but a company that speaks to Middle America and respects the values of Middle America. Although I'd amend that statement to read that Fox is not a news channel at all and exploits the people of Middle America for financial gain. Murdoch and his network don't care about these people, but they do know that they can use them as marks. Think about it this way. Fox effectively conditioned its audience to think a certain way. For example, Fox endorsed the Trump claim that the only way he could lose the election was if there was fraud. And so when Fox rightly called Arizona for Joe Biden, the audience that, again, was conditioned by Fox to believe that it would be a statistical impossibility for Biden to win Arizona, they immediately revolted. Thanks to this lawsuit, we know that internal emails read, "Holy cow, our audience is mad at the network. They're furious." And that audience started to defect to networks further right, like Newsmax and OAN. That is the extent of the brainwashing that came as the result of Fox's years of conditioning its audience. Again, it wasn't because Fox believed what it was serving its viewers, it was because Fox knew it could profit from it. Murdoch literally said the quote, "It is not red or blue, it is green." It is about exploiting their own audience for profit by giving them what they want to hear, what they've conditioned them to hear. That's Fox's business model and nothing more. So let's be honest here, we shouldn't be surprised when the guy who runs the network responsible for spreading dangerous disinformation also spreads dangerous disinformation. This isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's their whole business. So while I hope that Fox loses a boatload of money in this Dominion lawsuit, I'm more hopeful that some of their viewers will recognize the ways in which Fox has betrayed their trust by feeding them outright lies in public while telling the truth in private. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again, no one has more disdain for its own audience than Fox. Before you go, a quick announcement. I've started a Spanish YouTube channel. Democrats desperately need to be able to appeal to Spanish-speaking audiences, so this is me doing my part. To help that channel get going in the algorithm so that we can finally start spreading our progressive message and breaking the conservative stranglehold on Spanish-speaking media, please subscribe and watch a few videos. The link to that channel, called Brian Tyler Cohen Espanol, is right here on this screen. And of course, to see more of my content in English, make sure to subscribe to this channel as well. The link is also right here on this screen. Thanks so much for watching.